Hi, I'm Steph, and today I am doing a CD and album review of Kerosene Hat by Cracker. This is one of my all-time favorite albums, favorite CDs that I have in my CD collection. And when I was thinking about the next video to do, I really wanted to pick something that I've had for a long time and kind of feels like a staple of my CD collection that I have. I got this album in, I think, high school. I got it from my dad. I got a handful of CDs from my dad when I first got a car when I was like 17, I think. And my car just had a CD player, and so I couldn't do any aux, and radio was like fun for a bit, but I really got into CDs when I was in high school. I had some CDs before, and I had a CD player in my room in like middle school and stuff, but when I got a car, that was when I started hardcore really getting into CDs and started collecting them. I wasn't super serious about my collection at that time like I am now, but I was using my CDs constantly in my car, and this CD right here was one of my favorites, still is one of my favorites, and so I'm really excited to talk about that today. So this album was released on August 24th, 1993, and again, this is Kerosene Hat by Cracker. So something I love about this CD in particular, also this is broken. Like I said, I've had it for a long time, so this is how mine opens. Something I love about this CD is that the booklet in the front, it's not really a lyric booklet, which is kind of a bummer because I like when you can read the lyrics, but it is a poster, and I think it is very cool. So it folds all the way out into this big poster. And I think that's really neat. And on the back, it's pretty hard to read, but it has like all the producers, who plays guitar, who plays backing vocals. You don't play backing vocals, you sing them. But it has all the band members' names, when they recorded, where they recorded. They recorded this in a pioneer town in like the hills of California, so it wasn't in a normal studio. They spent like a week or so recording up in this like fake western town that's built in California, which I think is really neat. So that's in here, and just like publishing stuff, all the things are on this side. I think the front is really cool. This is a poster that I always have displayed whenever I set up my CD shelf. I move a lot. In past years, it's felt like I'm constantly moving, and so I'm packing up my CDs, unpacking them, packing them up, unpacking them, and I always make a point to display this poster on my CD shelf every single time I unpack it because I love this album so much, and I think the poster is really cool. It's also very thick. Like, this is not a thin piece of paper. It's like it's kind of rigid. There's newer albums that I have that have posters that come with them, and it's a lot thinner of a paper and gets like crinkly a lot easier, but this is definitely a higher quality paper, which I really appreciate, and I think that's really cool. So yeah, that's that part of it. The CD itself looks like this. It's like kind of a wood grain thing, I think. I don't know if that's maybe a little bit of an homage to the pioneer town that they recorded this in, because I know it was a lot of wooden barn-like buildings. So that's, I don't know, that's my personal guess. So that's that CD. I think it's pretty cool, and there's nothing on the back, and then This is the back of the actual CD. You can see the mountains of California and the band members right there. Very cool. I read in an article somewhere that they called it Kerosene Hat because the lead vocalist and one of the guitarists lived together for a while before they really had any success with their band, and the place that they lived in, they had kerosene heaters, and so when they would, like, it would be the winter and they would need to go get more kerosene, the lead singer would bundle up in like all these clothes and put on this specific hat, and that was known as the kerosene hat because he would be going to get kerosene when it was cold. And so I think it's just an homage to, because this is their second album and they did have some success with their first album, so I think it's just kind of an homage to where they came from with naming it Kerosene Hat, which I think is pretty cool. Just fun little backstory. So the first track on the album is called Low. It was one of the singles for the album and definitely one of their more successful tracks from the album. Sonically, this album is, in my opinion, I think it's like pretty grungy. It feels vulgar. They don't swear on this album. It's not an explicit album, but I think one of the overall feelings is just vulgar of this album, which is interesting to me because they're not swearing. It's just kind of this like grungy, dirty energy, I think, that it gives off. Just, that's my personal opinion. I'm no expert. I love this CD. I obviously wasn't alive when it came out, so I don't really know, like, you know, anything about how people felt about it when it came out. I'm not hearing these songs on the radio. I just got this CD from my dad, and my dad used to play some of their songs like around the house and stuff, and I remember those songs. And then when I was grabbing CDs from him for my car, I saw this one was Cracker, and I was like, oh, like he plays, like there's like 5 Cracker songs that he would play a lot, and I really liked those songs. So I was like, I'm gonna grab this CD. And then listening to this whole album, I definitely really fell in love with it very quickly. And yeah, so I think there's also, like, the second track is called Movie Star, and I definitely think there's some pop culture references in this song that I do not understand because I'm not hip on 90s pop culture references because I was born in 1998, so I wasn't there. But if you know, if you have any knowledge on maybe some references in the song Movie Star, feel free to drop those in the comments. I'm all ears. Like I said, I'm just reviewing my opinion on this album. I think it's a great album, and maybe if you haven't heard it, this will give you a little inkling to listen to it. Who knows? But yeah, second song, Movie Star, was one of the songs that my dad would play a lot, and it is such a good song. I really like the sonic sound of it, and the guitars in that song are phenomenal. The melody is so good. It is such a catchy song, and it's a great, just like, windows down driving song, and I think it's such a fun song. I will never get tired of this song, and I've never heard it on the radio, and I think that's weird. It's a jam, and again, there's no swear words. Like, I don't know. It's a really great song. It feels like, I mean, this whole album really feels like the 90s, but it's just 90s in the best way, and I think it's a great song. It's also a solo write, which I love a solo write. I think that's really cool. They have, like on the back, because they don't have a lyric booklet, but on the back of the CD, they do list the songwriters under each song. So this was a solo write by the lead vocalist, David Lowery, and I think it is a phenomenal track. Definitely one of my favorites on the album. The next track, track 3, is called Get Off This, and it has one of my favorite lyrics from the album on it. It's, if you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start this minute. I think that's great, and I think a lot of people could really take that advice. I think a lot of people just like, you know, they talk the talk, but they don't walk the walk, and this line is just like, shut up, go do it. Like, you want to make a difference, go do it. And I think that's really cool. I think it's a good example of some really good messages being hidden in like a 90s grunge track, because this is not, you know, the first time that's happened. Like, you know, Nirvana did that with their song Rape Me. Like, that has a great message, but it's just like hidden in this, not necessarily hidden because they're doing it on purpose, but it's just like, I think that grunge style of music maybe sometimes gets overlooked by some people because they're just like, oh, like it's just this like stupid band, you know, like they don't have anything good to say. But I think if you want to change the world, shut your mouth and start this minute. I think that's like great advice. So that's Get Off This, and again, great melodies and guitars. I really think that the flow of this album is fantastic. It has such a good sound, and yeah, I could not be more of a fan of the sound of this album. I think that's something that makes it really stand out, and however many years later, it still feels fresh and new to me, even after so many listens. The next song is a solo write and the title track. It's called Kerosene Hat, and it's the first slow song on the album, so the tempo slows down a lot. The first few songs are pretty fast paced, and I really like one of the lyrics in this song. It's here come old kerosene hat, like he's referring to himself, just like here he comes. And I don't know, I just think that's fun, and just adds to the backstory of knowing why they called the album Kerosene Hat. I think it's fun that he refers to himself as Kerosene Hat in this song. I think that's really cool, and also it has a really beautiful long fade out on this song, and I think it's awesome. It's a different sound from their first couple of songs, but it still has a nice flow with the album on this track. The next song continues on the kind of slow tempo level, and the next song is Take Me Down to the Infirmary. This is one of my other favorite songs on this album. This is another one that my dad used to play a lot, and so it definitely has a nostalgic element to it for me personally, which is a big reason I like it, but even unbiased, I think it's a fantastic song. I love a slow, just melancholy feel, and this song is very much that. One of the lyrics I really like in it is, I don't want to sleep or drink alone. He's just kind of wallowing. He just, yeah, it's just slow and emotional, and I think, I could be super wrong, I've never talked about this album like with anyone else, so I've never heard any other opinions on it, so I could be super wrong about all of these theories that I have, but I do think infirmary is an analogy for a bar, hence the I won't have to sleep or drink alone, like take me down to the infirmary, take me to the bar, I can, you know, not be alone, and I can be sad with other people. Like that's a pretty classic thing, like just you're sad and depressed, so you go to the bar to be sad and depressed with a drink and random other people, and so I do think infirmary is an analogy for metaphor for that. Another lyric that I really like on this song is when he says, "Oh, Sister Magdalene, won't you fetch the doctor's flask? He's gonna need a steady hand." And I don't know which way that goes. Are we bringing the doctor his flask because he's an alcoholic and he has the shakes and like he needs the alcohol to have a steady hand? Or are we are we fetching it away from the doctor so that he stops drinking so that he can have a steady hand? I don't know which way it goes, and it could go both ways, and I think that's just a really cool lyric in that song, and I like it a lot. Whenever I have played this album for people or showed them a song from this album and they haven't heard of Cracker, they haven't listened to Cracker before, I always say that it's mediocre music for when you're feeling mediocre. And I don't think this is a mediocre album by any means. I think this is a fantastic album, but the sound and the way it makes you feel, just, it all feels mediocre to me in a good way. Like, it's like sometimes I feel mediocre, and when I feel mediocre, it feels really good to listen to this album because I feel like I am not alone, and I think it's really beautiful, and I just really wanted to mention that. And again, that's just something that I say. I don't know. That's just, after listening to this album so many times throughout my life, just when I'm having a mediocre feeling day, I'm like, you know what I need right now? I need some Cracker, and that's gonna pick me up and make me feel better. And I love this album for its mediocrity feelings that it brings. The next track on the album is called Nostalgia. I think it's a really fun track. It has a really great sound. This whole album, I think, just has such a good flow and like garage band-esque feel, and I think this song is just a fun song that really fits in there very well. The next track is Sweet Potato. I really like the dichotomy of his vocals and the lyrics. He doesn't have a sweet potato voice. I love it with his voice. I love it with their sound. The next track is Sick of Goodbyes, another one of my favorites on this album. I remember hearing this on the CD for the first time and wondering why this was not one of the ones that my dad played all the time, because it is such a good song. It has a fantastic melody, great guitars, and I mean, who isn't sick of goodbyes? It's so relatable. The lyrics are great. I'm a really big fan of this one. Like I said, I move a lot, and I truly am wholeheartedly sick of goodbyes, and so this song really resonates with me. I love this one. Again, one of my favorite ones on the album. If you haven't heard it, go listen. It's phenomenal. The next song, I Want Everything, is another one of my favorites on the album. It is a very emotional solo write, which I think is so cool, and it's got great guitars, a great melody. It really, like, it's kind of a slow build, which I love, and I think it's a really beautiful song and a very honest song. One of my favorites on the album for sure. 10 out of 10. Absolutely love this one. This next song is written by the guitarist, and he also sings on it, which I think is so cool because it's the only song on the track where you're hearing a different lead vocalist, and it's called The Lonesome Johnny Blues, Johnny being the guitarist, and it's got a country feel to it. It's a really, really fun song. I am a big fan of it. It kind of feels like an interlude on the album because it has a different voice on it and a totally different feel than the rest of the album, but somehow it seems to fit really well. I think it following up I Want Everything, which is such an emotional song. Sometimes after songs like that, it's like, how do we keep going in this track list, in this album? And I think throwing in this really fun song is a great way to do that, and yeah, I love it. The next song, Let's Go for a Ride, sonically returns us to the beginning of the album. It has that same grungy, vulgar, fast-paced feel, and still without being explicit, and I think that's really cool. I think when artists hold back from using certain words, it can still pack just as big of a punch, and I think it's a little bit more difficult to get that angsty, grungy feel without using those words. So I do think it's really cool when it comes out like it does in this track, and I think that's really neat. The next track is Loser, which has some awesome guitars. Big fan of this one, and I think they do a really great job of kind of carrying back up the next part of the album as we're getting later into the album here with those couple of songs. I think that's really cool. Tracks 13 and 14 are silent. There is no song. the first time I heard this album, I thought maybe my CD player was glitching because it shows you track 13, it does a couple seconds, and then it skips to track 14, it does a couple seconds again, and then 15 is very jarring. Make sure you have your volume turned a little bit down. It's called High Desert Meth Lab, and that is what it sounds like. It's just, I think, outtakes from their recording. You know, nowadays everybody has a behind the scenes video on YouTube and making of album stuff like on TikTok or whatever, but this was 1993, and so this High Desert Meth Lab track, it's 40 seconds long. I think it's just their version of that in 1993, just like you hear their voices, you hear like, you know, some funny drums, and just I think it's all just stuff that they thought was like funny or kind of summed up the experience of recording the album, and I think that's really cool. There's like snoring in part of it. Yeah, so it's silly. I think it's the 1993 version of a behind the scenes TikTok of the making of an album, and I think that's really fun that it's on the CD. Then the CD skips again, and when I say skips, it stops on each track for like 3 or 4 seconds, and you can see your CD player count the seconds, so you're like, oh, something's going to play, nope, something, nope, and it skips all the way to track 69, and then it plays Euro Trash Girl, which is arguably the best song on this album. I don't know who would argue that, though, to be honest. It's a really great track. It's a very long track. I think it's about 8 minutes long. And this is another one that my dad would play all the time, and it is such a good song. And you have to leave your CD player on for a bit for it to get all the way to track 69, because like I said, it plays a couple seconds of silence on every single one of those tracks leading up from track 16 to 69. So it's like a minute or so. So if you just turn off your CD player after you hear what you think is the last song, you're going to miss this song, and it's not on the back of the album. The back of the album only goes to track 15. You can see High Desert Meth Lab there, and so Euro Trash Girl is not even on the back of the CD, so you wouldn't know that that song is going to come up. And like I said, it's like an 8-minute song, and I just think that's so neat, because you only get this song if you're patient, and by just leaving your CD and being like, huh, like, what is this CD doing? Why is it skipping all these tracks? Why is it like stopping? So you only get this if you just wait and let the CD keep going, and then it plays you this fantastic song. I am obsessed with these lyrics. I think it's an absolutely phenomenal song. The sound of it is just so true to their sound. The guitars are phenomenal. The melody is amazing, and this is like the epitome to me of mediocre music for when you're feeling mediocre. Again, in the best way. I mean that with love. And my favorite lyrics from this song, I wrote them down because there's no lyric booklet and I don't want to mess this up. But it's kind of long. I'm just going to read it. This is my favorite like lyric section from this song. Call my mom from a payphone. I said I'm down to my last. She said, I sent you to college, now go call your dad. And the waitress that he married, well, she hung up the phone. I love that so much. That has been one of my favorite lyrics from this song since forever. It just, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a divorced parents thing that makes me relate to it in a weird way. I don't know. I'm such a big fan of that line, and I think it's just that mediocrity that just hits for me. I don't know if anything I'm saying is making any sense to anyone, but I hope it does. And it's when you think the album is over, then they give you the best song, and I just think that is so cool. So that's Euro Trash Girl. And again, not on the back of the CD. 8-minute song just hidden in there, and it's so cool. And then, so then, you know, you hear that song that you waited to get, and you're like, okay, that's got to be the end. No, this is one of my favorite things about this CD. It makes the physical music so much fun because it's like a mystery. It's like, is something else gonna pop up? Spoiler alert, yes, it is. Again, this is also not listed on the back of the CD. It skips again to 88, and it plays I Ride My Bike, which is a really loud, grungy one. Again, watch your volume. It's gonna be a little bit louder than maybe some of the previous songs, and it's just so fun. It's just like 88, bam, just put it in there. And then it does the silent skips again until track 99, where you get an acoustic version of Kerosene Hat, and that officially closes the album. And it's so fun the way that they do that. And as I've mentioned before, I am a big album closer fan. So what is the real album closer on this song? I think technically it would be I Ride My Bike, because it's not going to be an acoustic version of a song. Like, I'm going to call the acoustic version like a bonus. All the songs that are amongst the silent skips do feel like a bonus to me, so maybe, you know, maybe the album closer is Loser, track 12, because then you skip 13 and 14, and then it goes to High Desert Meth Lab, which is just nonsense, for track 15, so it might be Loser. Or it might be I Ride My Bike. I would be curious to know for them what they're like when they think of the album closer of this album, what it is to them. I would love to know that. Maybe it's Euro Trash Girl, I don't know, but that's what makes this album so fun. This is a really neat CD to listen to physically. I highly recommend, if you haven't heard this album, go to your library and rent this CD. Listen to it on CD, not on a streaming service, because just watching it skip, it's like, what's going on? It's really fun. I remember, like, the first time I discovered this, I thought my CD player was broken, but I let it keep going, and then I was like, whoa, it's playing more music. This is so cool. Like, what a hidden gem. And I've never, I don't know, I have some other CDs that will have a bit of silence and then it'll play one more song, but this is the only CD I have where it does that 3 times, kind of 4. Like, it's a lot. It's really cool. I think that's what makes physical music so much fun, is things like that, and I really love that they did that. Really big fan, and it just, again, I feel like it feeds into that just grunginess of their music that I think is really fresh still after all these years. And yeah, so that is Cracker, Kerosene Hat. I am a big fan, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, I love this album. I give it a 10 out of 10. I think that it really just, it's a great album to just put on for people. Like, if I have some people coming over, I love to force everyone to pick a CD to play when I invite new people over, and not everybody wants to, but this is one, nobody's ever picked it, but someday somebody will, and it's gonna make me really happy. So that's a wrap on Cracker, Kerosene Hat. Thank you for watching. I really hope, if you have not heard this album, you go give it a listen, and feel free to let me know what you think. But to me, 10 out of 10.